Welcome to Monday, the 30th day of June, 2025. Welcome to Monday. This forecast brought to you by ConverseCountyTourism.com. Feel the energy of Converse County. Explore Douglas's railroad heritage, Ayers Natural Bridge, and the Jackalope legend. Glen Rock boasts scenic trails, dinosaur history, and small town charm. Plan your visit at ConverseCountyTourism.com. Well, there's some good teamwork. Got to get the hay in before the rain. Nice shot there. And as we go into the days ahead, we'll be talking about this monsoonal moisture plume, but we do have to talk a little bit about and show you a lot of photos of the severe weather over the weekend. We were a bit concerned out into the plains that we may end up with severe weather. And boy, that was the case in some areas in the Dakotas and northeastern Wyoming on Saturday. Then eastern Wyoming, western Nebraska, parts of Colorado yesterday. Unfortunately, lots of you hit with hail. The cool front responsible for the severe weather, especially yesterday, is going to bring in some drier air and will suppress the moisture to the south. Then the monsoon moisture plume surges northward. It's really Tuesday through Friday where the monsoon moisture plume in the west will be most prevalent. One thing you got to remember about these monsoon moisture plumes is they don't stay permanent through the course of the summer. The door opens and closes the monsoon off and on throughout the course of the summer. But we certainly see the monsoon moisture flow in and out through this summer, so those trends continue. But you have to expect there'll be breaks in between them. Beautiful shots here before we get to the severe weather. I don't need even to tell you where this photo was taken. Great shot there. And another one, another horse shot in the western areas of the United States near Mount Tom in California. You can see some cloud buildup, some of that monsoon moisture there getting into the Sierra, and that will be the case here in the weeks ahead. Beautiful shot. Yes, that's a lenticular cloud. They do happen in the summer when winds aloft are strong enough. Beautiful lenticular shot there north of Jeffrey City, Wyoming, coming off likely the Wind River Mountains late last week. Then as we got into the weekend, well, things started innocently enough for both Saturday and Sunday with lots of blue skies and fair weather to get things started. But here's another great Jan Curtis time lapse of Sunday afternoon. And then what you'll see in the following photos is what was the result of that approaching cool front coming out of Montana, a decent plume of subtropical moisture, and the end result is just explosive development in the afternoon hours of those thunderstorms. There you go. You can see the updrafts boiling up and really putting together those thunderstorms and initiating other thunderstorms and a lot of severe weather and unfortunately a lot of hail over the weekend across the region, depending on where you were. Most of it was out along and east of the Continental Divide. And there's a couple more shots of basically the same cloud buildup across southeastern Wyoming yesterday. Then those boiled up into what we saw as some big thunderstorms, some supercells, a lot of structure there you can see near Glendo, across South Dakota over the weekend, and northeastern Wyoming, especially Weston County. The Newcastle area seeing a lot of hail, a lot of heavy rain, and that continued into the nighttime hours. Look at that photo. Wow. Beautiful shot of a very intense thunderstorm that went through Goshen County, then went into the panhandle of Nebraska. This was a very destructive thunderstorm, and boy, you can just tell by looking at all the structure there and the organization that that thunderstorm was going to produce some bad weather. There's some big mammatus clouds hanging on the backside of that same thunderstorm yesterday afternoon, all the way back into Chugwater. The buildup was very impressive. Unfortunately, these thunderstorms were very good hail producers. Parts of northwest and northern and northeastern areas of Cheyenne got some large hail in some areas. And then very heavy rain in the Black Hills of South Dakota, well over an inch of rain with a heavy downpour there. Then unfortunately, this is not fun to show you. This is beautiful corn crop here, but this is what happens after a hailstorm goes through for the exact same area. Boy, devastating hail going through eastern Wyoming and western Nebraska. Lots of crop damage. Also, forest fire smoke in parts of the southwestern United States out of western New Mexico here. folks down there patiently awaiting this monsoon moisture plume in many areas. Here's a map of where the severe weather was on Saturday. You can see a lot of red dots, a lot of tornado activity in South Dakota, up into eastern areas in North Dakota. Very large hail and wind reports all across the area. Then yesterday, you can see a southward shift yesterday of the severe weather. Lots of wind reports, lots of green, lots of hail reports there. Now, as we go into the forecast section now, this is the drought monitor as of last Thursday, although drought monitors are only good through the day before, 2 days before on Tuesday. So it doesn't include what happens Wednesday or Thursday, but they're updated on Thursday mornings. You can see drought conditions continue to improve. We'll show you the change maps right here due to the very moist spring pattern that developed in May and June in those areas. But you can see the western slope of Colorado, the desert Southwest getting into extreme drought in many areas. And it's better to show you this map, which is what's called the change map, how much drought conditions have gotten better or worse in the last 3 months. In the last 3 months, you can see, as we've been telling you, that this area here has just gotten back into the precipitation again. Of course, a lot of that is severe weather, and that's how it goes. I have to tell you, there's a strong correlation to a wet May and June to severe weather during those months and after. You get the soil moisture back up, and that can really just get you into a lot of severe weather. Look at southwestern Wyoming and western Colorado and eastern Utah here. So when you look at the class change, there's been 1 to 3 class improvements east of the divide here. Not far away, the opposite. So things have really dried out in southwestern Wyoming, western Colorado. You can see the dry areas here in New Mexico as well. So what you'd like to see is things get a little more wet. And what you do this time of year, if you're going to get wet, it's got to be from the monsoon. You're not going to get a big Pacific storm going to the southwestern United States. You got to bring up that monsoonal moisture. The 500 millibar pattern here today shows the cool front, this guy right here, and the cool front responsible for all of yesterday's severe weather. This is going to bring a pocket of dry air into right here. But once this front starts to head east, you can see the high and the low couplet. So the flow of air around the low comes like this. The flow around the high comes like this. So the door opens to the monsoon beginning today down in Arizona, parts of southern New Mexico, and parts of the western slope. But there will be some suppression of the thunderstorm activity because of this dry pocket right here. But there will be a little bit of residual moisture along the front range, eastern plains of Colorado, down here in New Mexico. There's a little patch of dry air here in Arizona. What'll happen, though, is this moisture down here begins to move northward beginning tomorrow. So the thunderstorm threat, you can see that wedge of dry air going to really make a difference right there. But we're going to start to see an arch of showers and thunderstorms here. The severe weather today is more likely into the Midwest. By Wednesday, there's the couplet, the high right here. This is Tropical Storm Flossie. We'll need to watch Flossie because Tropical Storm Flossie is going to slowly come up this way off the Baja by the weekend. We'll see what this ends up doing. It's a little bit of a wild card in the long term, but the counterclockwise flow around this low, this high work together. So you can see where the thunderstorms and the showers are going to be today. So very active day in Kansas, southeast Colorado, the panhandles, a lot of New Mexico, getting into eastern areas of Arizona. The western slope of Colorado, a little bit of activity, but we've got to wait a day or two. There's a little bit of moisture in northern California that'll get some thunderstorm activity going there. But things really start to surge northward. The deeper monsoon plume starts tomorrow, lasts through Friday, but especially today, tomorrow, and Thursday. Those are the days, Tuesday through Thursday, where Arizona, New Mexico, western Colorado, Utah, western areas of Wyoming, and into parts of the Great Basin have the better chance for thunderstorms with this first plume of monsoonal moisture of the season. So thunderstorm activity on Tuesday spreads further west into rim country of Arizona, gets into the Four Corners area here, and we also have quite a bit of activity out into the plains. The thing about monsoon thunderstorms is that you need a lifting mechanism because you really don't have a low pressure system or a front. What you're doing is you just have very moist air And the daytime heating causes thermal activity. That's one way to make the air rise. And the thermal activity is always going to be more prevalent and stronger over the mountainous terrain. So the thunderstorms get initiated over the higher terrain. Then the upper level winds will bring those thunderstorms off the higher terrain to areas downwind. But the thunderstorms will build over the higher terrain first, then move across the plains or the valleys, depending on where they go. So that's why you see the brighter colors, especially west of the divide, lining up with the higher terrain. So tomorrow is when the monsoon plume really gets itself going. And then as you get into Wednesday, you can see it deeper. You can see the moisture from Flossie right here, but you see the patches of blue, the dark green getting further north and west. So on Wednesday, similar situation. You can see a lot of activity in Arizona, getting into Utah, the Four Corners area again. And you can see kind of the ring of moisture coming around. By Thursday, this is when the moisture is the deepest. So if we're going to have some really big, heavy downpours with the heavier thunderstorms, it's going to be under this dark blue, darker green plume area right here. The axis of moisture right there is very, very deep. So on thunderstorm activity on Thursday, this is where the thunderstorms will be most prevalent, and Thursday's a day where you're going to get the gully washers. You're going to get the heavier downpours. By Friday, though, the plume really accelerates northward. So we actually have drier air come into the Four Corners area on Friday for the 4th of July. So the 4th of July thunderstorms are going to probably be more along and north and east of that line. That's not to say there won't be some residual moisture left behind, but the deeper moisture on the 4th of July gets shifted north and east. And there you can see where the thunderstorms, the fireworks from Mother Nature will tend to be on Friday. Although I guess, and I will probably surmise, there will be a lot more thunderstorm activity in that circle I just drew than what the model is showing. We'll just take it as we get a little bit closer. But you can see that drier air kind of brings an end. The door closes, so to speak, to the monsoon just temporarily as we get into the 4th of July weekend down in the southwestern United States. By Wednesday of next week, the high begins to rebuild. Clockwise flow starts to bring the moisture back on in. And then what we'll likely see is the monsoon moisture flow starting to surge back up again early to the middle parts of next week. So the door opens, the door closes. Have yourself a good last day of June. We'll see you tomorrow.